Now, on the other side of the student debt loan forgiveness debate here, Arkansas Attorney General Tim Griffin with us now. Arkansas, of course, one of 6 plaintiff states the Supreme Court ruled in favor of in this case. Sir, thank you for being with us to talk about this. 220,000 people from your state applied to this student loan debt relief program. What do you say to them in the wake of this decision?
Well, first of all, I say that I'm not just here as an elected official. I personally had over $100,000 in my own student loans, and I just finished paying them off in my 40s after years. So I understand this intimately. This, for me, is not about policy. This is not a discussion of whether we should or should not forgive loans. That's where people get confused. This is about the law. The simple question was not, should we forgive the loans? The simple question was, and continues to be, does the president have the unilateral authority under the HEROES Act to forgive the student debt? That's the question that was presented, and that's the question that we got an answer to. I used to be a member of Congress. Congress is where the laws are made. And in this case, we had a law, the HEROES Act, and what the administration, what the president did is not allowed under the HEROES Act. If Congress today, with the president, wanted to do this, they could do it. When the Democrats controlled all of Congress and the White House, they could have done it. There's a way to do this, but there's a right way and there's an illegal way. And what we heard today is this attempt to cancel debt does not constitute a modification or a waiver which is allowed under the HEROES Act. This is a wholesale change which just can't. There's no good argument to be made under the HEROES Act that this is legal. That's what this is about.
Let me ask you.
And I know
there is, as part of the debate, there is a question of whether, maybe not, before the court, but as part of this broad debate on student loan forgiveness, there is a question about whether this should be forgiven. And there have been many Republicans who say, look, this was a payout to a constituency that Democrats were doing. And there was opposition, as you know, within your party because of that. I mean, knowing that this will animate potentially Democrats, are you prepared for the political blowback of what this will bring?
I'm prepared to do what's right under the law, and whatever political blowback comes or doesn't come is really not the issue for me because I'm the Attorney General.
Okay, so
I'm
then
not
let's
a legislator.
talk about.
I'm not a member.
And I respect
but
that,
I will,
sir.
I want to address your question directly, Brianna. I want to address it directly because I also think it's a bad idea on policy. My point is not to avoid saying that. My point is to clarify the discussion. This Supreme Court decision is about the law. Now, we can have a policy discussion, which I'm happy to engage in, and I think it's a horrible idea to do this. Why? Because I took out loans, many loans for law school, for grad school, for undergrad. And you know what? It took me decades to pay them. And I paid them myself. And I believe when I finish paying them that I'm done. I don't want, and a lot of Americans who've paid their loans or are paying their loans, they don't want to find out that just when they thought they were done paying their loans off, no, you weren't. Because now you got to pay someone else's loans off. I mean, I don't know where individual responsibility went, but yeah, I think it's a bad idea. But I just want to be clear. That's not what the Supreme Court decision's about.
No, I understand that. Okay, so then let's
talk.
No, I understand. I understand, but it's all part of the conversation here.
A lot of journalists don't understand it.
Let's talk about the law. This case opens the door to more reining in of that so-called administrative state, as it was put in the majority opinion here. What other programs do you see the precedent here, right? The standard set in this ruling to affect? Are we talking about potentially Medicare, Social Security? What do you think?
Well, look, we have a number of lawsuits against the administration that relate to executive orders, that relate to regulations coming out of the different agencies. And I'm not going to comment specifically on them, but you make a good point. This does continue to draw a clear line, reining in the administrative state, which I will say, as someone who was a member of Congress, who worked in the executive branch in Washington, who's held these different roles, the administrative state has been way out of control for a long time, and they've been acting in an extra constitutional way. And look, the stuff they do can be done, but it must be done by the elected officials in the United States Congress. The fact that they won't do it is not a good legal reason to do it on your own. We saw this when I was a member of Congress with President Obama. There were a number of instances where his lawyers had said in the past, we can't do this legally, but when they were thwarted in the Congress, they said, well, let's try it anyway. You know, that is corrosive to the rule of law. And if people want to apply pressure to their elected representatives to get A, B, C, or D passed, go do it. There's a proper process. Process matters. We saw this with some of the mask rules. We've seen it with OSHA. So I'm all for that discussion, but I think we do a disservice.
Your point taken.
Can't conflate the two.
No, and I understand there is a policy discussion,
Thank
there's
you,
a legal discussion. I will say it is a bipartisan practice of seeing how far that executive authority goes, which I know that you are certainly well aware of from your time in Washington. Attorney General Tim Griffin, thank you for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Brianna.